Look, I like sport by sitting and watching it on television, but we don't play enough. Very few of our children and even fewer of our adults play sports when we really should be understanding that sports are so important for our health, for our development, and for society, because if we stay healthy and fit, society has to spend less on looking after our health. So Mr. Upi Singh has done a very good job in Haryana. He's talked about that experience, and he is giving a message to the whole nation that the whole country should say yes to sports, and every child growing up in India, going to school, should have physical activity every day. I think this is a very important message, and I'm hoping that all of us in India will remember Sachin Tendulkar is playing his last match. But for us in life, there is no last match. We need exercise every day. We should play it.
From the media, boys and girls at the back, I want to thank you in particular for your patience this evening. I think it's great to have a lot of young people, particularly looking as athletic as you here this evening. I'm sorry that in order to make sure you got here safely, we brought you here some time ahead, and thank you for your patience sitting here to be with us this evening. My name's Mark Runacres, and I have more or less no qualification for being your compere for this evening. Other than that, I work a lot in the education field. I have my own education company which is working on sports programs in schools around India. And I happen to think that this evening's author, Mr. Singh, is genuinely a remarkable visionary and pioneer. And therefore I was thrilled when I was invited to come and compare the evening. But my job is not to take up much airspace, because we want to hear from Mr. Singh, we want to hear from the publishers, and above all, we want to hear from our guest of honour, the Minister, who we're delighted could be with us this evening. And thank you to all of you for finding the time to be here. This book, as you know, stems from Mr. Singh's experience as sports director in Haryana from 2008 to 2012. When even people like myself, who do not partake on a daily basis of sport, could not help but notice that Haryana's sporting performance was transformed and came to be regarded internationally as as a model for sports development around the world. So it's really extreme good fortune for all of us that Mr. Singh has taken that experience and has put it down in an extremely succinct and clear, and as I say, visionary book from which we can all learn and, I hope, inspire generations of people, in particular in this country, but not just in this country, to understand the importance of sport to the development of a country and most importantly, to the future of young people like all of you sitting at the back and standing at the back, pleased to see. The whole idea of the book turns around the idea of essentially people having a right to play, that this is not something which is something that people should have to ask for, but something which is a right that they should be given to them irrespective of their condition or their place in society. And I'm sure that that concept is one which has enormous impact and will continue to develop as people come to recognize it. Very importantly for people like me, namely a parent, the book recognizes that parents are the key stakeholders in this. I couldn't agree more. I myself have pushed my children to play the sports that they want at the level that they want to play it, and with the success which they can achieve at that level. And I have to say, I have never, as a modest sportsman myself, felt that that was anything but the right thing and a successful thing to do. In short, this book is a must-read for all of those who want their children to fulfill their potential and become what they have the potential to be. First of all, this evening, I'd like to introduce the publishing house, Wisdom Tree. I will read out a little bit about Wisdom Tree because it's a rather remarkable story. It's an independent Indian publishing organization that believes in creating books which are Indian in essence and global in appeal. For Wisdom Tree, publishing is a passion and the process of publishing is an art. Wisdom Tree's books are sold across the world and have been translated into several languages. And I want you children to concentrate because I'm going to test you on this later on. I want you to remember all these languages that these books have been published in. They've been translated into Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Bahasa, Bulgarian, and my personal favorite, Latvian. And if any of you have read a book in Latvian published by Wisdom House, you get a special prize after this ceremony. Wisdom Tree were the first Indian publisher to sell its books on Amazon Kindle and have been featured 3 times in the Limca Book of Records for its innovative marketing and publishing approach, quite apart from having won several prestigious awards. May I now invite Wisdom Tree's founder and publisher, Mr. Shobit Arya, to share his thoughts with us.
Thank you, Mark. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Mr. O.P. Singh, distinguished guests and friends. Say Yes to Sports is more than a book. It is an eye-opener. It makes you think, it pushes you out of your comfort zone, and at the same time makes you smile. You could say it expands your consciousness. Chetna ka vistar, as Mr. Singh would often say. My interactions with Mr. Singh have also been like the book. We've dwelled upon things, we've pushed each other out of our comfort zones, and generally laughed a lot. Now, if you know anything serious about books, you would know that publishers and authors don't laugh. And a publisher and author laughing together really needs a rare planetary combination. Talking about authors, we are really privileged to have with us one author who the publishing world has been missing. He's on deputation to the Indian government, building our nation. We are really privileged, thank you Shashiji. We've also had the pleasure of publishing a wonderful book with Dr. Tharoor, a book called India, the Future is Now, which he edited. We really couldn't have wished for a better ambassador for sports and literature to endorse this book. Thank you again. On that note, I'll thank all of you for being here, especially our young friends who've come from the sports school RAI. As Mark said, look very bright and athletic. Thank you very much.
The moment's come now to hear from the author himself. Mr. Singh is an IPS officer. I'm pleased to see so many of his colleagues and former colleagues here in the audience this evening. 2 decades in public service delivery, wide-ranging work in area policing, vigilance, intelligence, security, counter-terrorism, and anti-money laundering. As the Haryana Sports Director from 2008 to 2012, he contributed immensely to the state's transformation into a sporting giant with the iconic program Play for India, which is really the centerpiece of the book. He was awarded the President's Police Medal for meritorious service in 2008. If I might just add, on a personal note, that I spent yesterday evening with Mr. Singh. And I think it's fair to say that this short book of 110 pages represents a very small part of this man's vision, not just about sport in development, not just about policing, but about the way that not only the country, but indeed the international community is run. I'm absolutely confident that this book and the job that he's done in Haryana is just the beginning of a career about which we are going to hear a lot in the future. And it therefore gives me an enormous amount of pleasure to invite you to come and speak to us.
Very good evening. Thank you, Mr. Sir. I will start with a Hindi joke. एक तालाब में एक बच्चा डूब रहा था तो जैसे कि इंडिया में होता है कि कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो सोल्यूशन के बारे में कोई नहीं सोचते, सारे खड़ा होकर देखते हो क्या है। एक आदमी उधर से आया, धड़ाम से कूदा, बच्चे को निकाला बाहर, इधर उसे क्लैपिंग ऑल अराउंड की, क्या बात है क्या बात है। तो बंदा खड़ा हुआ, मैं पहले ये बताओ मुझे धक्का किसने दिया था। So when I was posted director sports, मैं ढूंढ रहा था मुझे धक्का किसने दिया था। So you know sir, no option, government order, Governor of Haryana is pleased to post you as director sports Haryana. So I investigated as a police officer. I cannot stop it, but at least let me know it, how this has happened. ये धक्का मुझे लगा कैसे? So it was I found Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda got me posted as director of sports Haryana. It is fact. I'm not joking. So I was something like, you know, DIG crime in charge of anti-terrorist cell. So I used to get intelligence every day. यहाँ बम फटेगा, वहाँ बम फटेगा, ये होगा, वो होगा. So you want to save your escape. बम कहीं नहीं फटे, हम दफ्तर में बैठे बैठे तो ना मरे. So what you do, you pass on the intelligence as quickly as possible to the next formation. And the intelligence used to be, कहीं भी कभी भी बम फट सकता है, so take care. So अब कहीं भी कभी भी बम फट सकता है, so take care. But how to take care of myself? If I am accused of not passing on intelligence in time, I will defend myself. So I started writing background notes. You see, you are Haryana, and you are Gurgaon, and you are Faridabad, and you are Hisar, you are Yamuna. You are proximate to Sikh militant, you are proximate to Islamic militants, and you shouldn't look all the time to a sky for the tip-off. Satellite will give you a tip-off. You कौन terrorist कहाँ से आ रहा है? You scan your area and find for the footprint of terrorist activities in your area only. So that in case of a disaster, I can say, you didn't scan your area good enough. My not passing on intelligence was not the problem. Your failure to scan your area properly was the problem. So it was a skill-saving kind of thing. And I thank late Osama bin Laden for getting me a job where I survived and I was standing here. The next thing, sir, what to do then? We are director of sports, and my engagement with the sports is what like? I used to be in the school team as a matter of courtesy. Why? So I used to score a lot of number in the examinations. मतलब क्लास में फर्स्ट आता है उसको टीम में डाल दो, नहीं चोरी करवा देगा. In case you know कि एग्जाम में जरूरत पड़ गई, he can be helpful. So put him in the team. So I was that level of player, and incidentally one fine morning, I was director of sports for Haryana, and the Beijing Olympic was won. Everybody is asking why you're not in Beijing. So they didn't understand a foreign tour takes 6 months of processing. So I couldn't postpone Beijing Olympics, so I couldn't see it. So finally, sir, in police we have command performance. Police is running in India. You are having something like, we can carry on. We are having, we're chasing Ferrari with Mahindra Zee, and we don't complain in police. There will be a police assistant from tomorrow. We don't ask for building, we don't ask for manpower, we ask for nothing. From tomorrow, police assistant starts. Even Gypsy always commands. There was a complaint, there was lots of pilferage from the vehicles. So from tomorrow, Gypsy will give a mileage of 9 to 11 kilometers per litre. And then Gypsy complied. So this is the way police works. Gypsy complied that Mr. Dalal's order. Okay, from tomorrow onwards, all Gypsy of the range will run 11 kilometers per litre, and Gypsy complied. So we are back with command performance. Haryana sports director, कुछ करना चाहिए. नहीं तो लोग पूछेंगे क्या कर रहे हो? किताब में इसलिए लिखी सर, इसी से मिलते थे, क्या किया हरियाणा स्पोर्ट्स में, बताते बताते मेरा गला खराब हो गया। हमने कहा लिख देते पढ़ लेते। अब सर हिंदी अनुवाद भी करना पड़ेगा, कई लोग कहेंगे अंग्रेजी नहीं आती, अंग्रेजी क्यों लिखा हिंदी में। सो bringing children to playground is a huge issue. It is no joke. US First Lady runs a campaign, let's move. And she encourages children to be physically active, eat right, and you see lots of activity going on televisions and etc. In UK fitness report, they said in 2004, annual cost to national economy for physical inactivity is £2 billion. I don't know how they have calculated market, but it's £2 billion. Maybe lost man hours, increased expenditure on health infrastructure, but they worked it out to be exactly £2 billion they lose every year of physical activity. When I go to London, I find every day activity. And still they are inflicting cost on the national economy. I was surprised. Then they say, if we can increase physical activity by 10%, then we shall be saving £500 million per year. Great. So I said we have a bad balance of trade. Let me try and save some dollars for India. Let me increase physical activity level. Let us bring more children to playground. So this is something very close to my heart. It doesn't cost much, but it's very important. Start children playing. Start children playing. But then you have human wall between children and the playground. You have teacher, you have parents, and you have lack of opportunity. They say there is no sports culture. But you ask, where is the person that is realistically achievable? A district level student will go on to become doctor, engineer, lawyer, like me, and marry good girl, live in good locality, enjoy himself. A district level player will find Halwai, Exapular, Kohli. So if you don't give opportunity, that's realistically achievable, you shouldn't complain. And you will pay. As a society, you will pay. I say, sir, you start picking playground right now, or you start building jails and hospitals. You don't have an option. You have to commit responsibility. जब थोड़ा सा मामला गंभीर हो गया मैं उसका फायदा उठा लूँगा सर. I have a very clear idea कि I googled yesterday sir, sports in ancient India. 129 million lines. You type sports in medieval India, 4.9 million lines. So my take is that I have written it on the book. I've taken a risk. Historian may sue me for half-baked research, but it is just a conjecture. In medieval time, anybody who had a militia of 5,000 in Central Asia, they aspired to overrun Delhi. So two facts put together. I did not say how important sports is. I see it as a mock fight. So we have 5,000 kilometers of live borders with China and Pakistan. No international law is applicable. When they get into our territory, it is not an act of aggression. You cannot, send your fighter planes. We need sturdy legs and lungs to defend those borders. We have got only one country, and we have got it after 1,000 years of subjugation. We are barely 60, 70 years old country. We just take it for granted. We will again not be subjugated. Who will take the risk of occupying India, 1.27 billion people? So how you are going to defend your live borders? You cannot import soldiers from France and US and Russia. You see American soldiers, they can carry 50 kg. Our soldier, इसलिए मारे गए भी सो गए थे. And you will blame the poor soldiers. You won't say, body takes 10 to 20 years of conditioning to take load, to be endurable. You think you have a healer, you have a recruitment team, you will say you will find good enough soldiers. No. You go and see sports school in America. Then you find how they have introduced some capacity in Iraq, in Afghanistan. They come because they believe in their man more than they can cook them. So I'm just saying these things are important and we shouldn't take it lightly. One more thing I'd like to say, sir. Like in conflict zones, we blame they are Naxalite, they are subversives, they are secessionists, and they need to be contained. And when you do it for years and years and you find nothing is coming out, for the benefit of media you say, let us go for development also. My problem is with the mainstream. Reading, writing, debating and accounting, 4 skill sets. Carry an audit, so you'll find 99% of job, highly paid job with these people. We don't put any premium on any other skill. So enterprising youth who are not fortunate enough to go through formal education and find a space in this mainstream, if they want to have a good life, what they will do? I'm no sympathizer of these criminals. They are as big a victimizer as anybody. But he is an enterprising man. He knows how to mobilize. So where he will deploy these resources to have a decent living for himself. So he will take advantage of the crime. He will take advantage of the imagined or perceived grievances or real grievances of the people. And he will make some sort of naysay and challenge the government. And then you as a democracy. You are seen as a government at one with your own people. So when you go to some international fora and say you don't talk too much, you are fighting your own people, you have your own problem. So I am for augmented mainstream. Again coming back to aspirational, substantial and realistically achievable opportunities around the skill sets rather than scholastics. So that we have tried to. So it is not a book, sir. ये तो पीछा छुटाने के लिए किसी ने पूछा कि क्या भी आ रहा है स्पोर्ट्स में, बोला भाई सिस्टम की और हम बड़ी मेहनत करके छापी है, अगर ये जानना है तो पैसा खर्च करो, हम तो नहीं बनाते. दूसरा सर, it is a first system because we have to some serious response. यहाँ से हम कहाँ जाएंगे? We shouldn't take this for granted. I like Farid Zakaria. He gives you a fair template of future. What is going to be like in future? So he says about, in 1945, after Second World War, there were 60 sovereign countries. In 2013, it is 196. So the number of sovereign countries has more than tripled in 60-70 years. And he says if it goes on like that, then in the next 30-40 years, we will have 500 sovereign countries. This is strict. So you ask him, will there be again population migration, ethnic cleansing, bloodbath, what will happen? This is not necessary. He says it's city-state, like Singapore, Hong Kong. So what they said other day, let's have Mumbai on our own. Why do we identify with Vidarbha? Gurgaon people can say we have nothing to do with everybody. Our socio-legal requirement is different. So we don't know future what it is going to be like. So. But we seriously believe in opening up the mainstream, bringing in more people. And we have to really care for the people who are enterprising and who can mobilize. If you don't accommodate in the mainstream, they will challenge the mainstream. एक फिल्म में डायलॉग था कि गरीब पैदा हुए थे साहब, गरीब मरूंगी नहीं. So you have a state's might, and you can inflict an unwinnable war on them. But it is failure of co-option. Most of the people believe in the previous birth and bad karma and bad life and next life goes on. But people who are like you and me, who want a good life, you will have to open up a economy for them. Otherwise, they will deploy the mental resources, physical resources, and they will keep creating problems. So my book is just a beginning, just an initiation of a debate. And whether it revolutionizes school sports in India or not, Mr. V.K. Verma will be around. But I hope it is a talking point and people discuss these things. And I may be wrong, I may have said things that is, we may look what is this? But it is for debate purposes only. So So let us hope this book initiates a debate. It is read. And as I joke, when somebody told me, "Sir, please मैं 50 कॉपी खरीद रहा हूँ." मैं सोचा तो thank you, why to bother? My job is to market myself to the publisher. The publisher's job to market the book. So any of you who want to please me, don't say me I'm buying a book. It is this book, not my one. Once it is gone, it is this book. But he has been a great man.
I wish you told me.
He is a great man, and he took the risk of publishing me. God save him. And sir, I have to pinch myself hard. I spoke all those things to make myself comfortable. मैं आपके बगल में बैठा हूँ. It is huge progress. You are an institution, and you have hope. Indian politics can't retain people like you. It gives me a lot of hope for the future. And thanks for organizing me and being here and endorsing the book you did. I'm so impressed. I don't know you, sir. I'm meeting you the first time. You believed in me. Just through few pieces of paper. And you stayed beyond. You put it behind. It was to organize nice messages to the country. I'm so thankful for believing in me, sir. Thanks a lot.
Right. So now it gives me great pleasure to ask Dr. Thura to release the book in front of everybody.
Still.
Do you want to
भाई साहब चेयर से साइड हो जाओ इससे जैकेट वाले भाई
भैया आगे सर जाओ ब्लैक आगे सर जाओ
भाई साहब
anybody else who wants to join in? Shouldn't be for the picture. You see the picture. We'll sit here and they can see.
ये स्वेटर
I'm very jealous of their t-shirts. How do I get a t-shirt?
अरे भाई आगे पीछे मत हो ना
मोबाइल
Ready?
ओए भाई साहब हेलो
अरे इसमें लड़ता कैसे
नीचे से
चलो 1 मिनट
Thank you very much. So I can now hand you the safety to the Minister. Thank you so much, Minister. Thank you so much, Mark, and Mr. O.P. Singh, first of all, for those very gracious words, Shobit for publishing a wonderful book, and Mark for this magisterial way of conducting this book release. Mark began by saying that he was unqualified to be here. With a name like Run Acres, he seems to be eminently qualified. Right? I mean, he runs acres. I feel much less qualified because my favorite form of exercise has always been jumping to conclusions. So I have not been able to do much more than that. But having said that, it really is delightful to be here. Indeed, I didn't know O.P. Singh. The manuscript was sent to me. It was an issue which I was interested in, both because I've been saying something like this in my various speeches to schools and colleges, particularly schools, on their various Founders' Days, when you not only want to congratulate the kids who got 100% and got the prizes, but you want to say something to the other kids who haven't got the prizes. Even today, I just came from a school Founders' Day and prize distribution function, where I gave the same message, that exams are not everything. But O.P.'s book, O.P. Singh's book, anchored, of course, in his experience in Haryana, actually gives a much larger message to all of us in India. First of all, as far as Haryana is concerned, certainly with his direction as sports director, a state with just 2% of India's land, about 2% of India's population, claimed about 33% of the total medals won by India in various international events across the entire spectrum of sports. And I envy that, because I think I read somewhere that had Haryana been an independent country, which of course we were never allowed to be, it would have come 5th in the medal standings in the New Delhi Commonwealth Games, ahead of 66 countries. So that's this. So
because Haryana has done something that nobody else in our country has done, I think it's worth really focusing about that. I mean, I myself am one of the legions of people who love sports as long as somebody else is doing it and I can just watch it. I mean, that's the usual problem with most of us. Tomorrow is Sachin Tendulkar's last match, the whole nation will be glued to the TV if they're not already in Mumbai. But how many of us are actually going out and playing ourselves? Probably, and I don't know what percentage has been worked out, I would be surprised if those who are active physically more than, at random, but somebody who say active physically every single day would not be more than 1 or 2% of our population. That's probably a harsh guess, but it's not going to be too far off. Because the fact is that we have become a somewhat sedentary people, and in fact, we weren't always. I was very glad when he said that there were so many more links about sports in ancient India, because certainly our culture, our civilization, and our cuisine must have evolved in physically fitter times, because our food is rich, from ghee and sweets and everything else. The assumption was that whoever was eating this food was meant to be slogging away, walking long hours, doing physical labor, perhaps playing sports. After all, we invented polo, we invented kabaddi, we invented various things. We didn't invent cricket. That was a historical accident that somehow or the other, I think Ashish Nandi said it very beautifully, that cricket is actually an Indian sport accidentally discovered by the British. But the fact is that we have invented different sports in our time. And today we have become a relatively sedentary people. And we're still eating that rich cuisine of ours, and the result is, of course, we are a rather unhealthy nation. I liked very much something O.P. Singh said this evening when he said, either you construct more playgrounds or you construct more jails and hospitals. More hospitals because your population will remain and get more and more unhealthy, and more jails because, of course, sports has a tremendous capacity to absorb the energies of the young and to channel them in a constructive direction. Whereas if we don't have sports, many of the same people who might be hurling a fast ball at the stumps in a cricket ground or throwing a javelin on a sports field might instead be throwing stones or hurling knives. And the fact is that we really have to understand that in our society, sports has a great deal of importance. It breaks barriers in our society. Ours is in many ways a society divided by caste, by creed, by language, by appearance, etc. Sport transcends all of that, brings us together. I think there's been nothing greater for Indian unity and the pride and patriotism we feel than sporting triumph. Yes, there is war, but we don't want to have too many wars in our life. But every time India goes out and wins a sporting match or wins a tournament, wins a cricket test, the nation is united. We are together savouring the victory, and of course it's a victory usually produced by a team that includes players of various religions, various parts of the country, speaking different languages at home, different foods, but united in that glorious label of playing for India. That is ultimately what I think we should be proud of. We have a very youthful population. A majority of our population is under 35. Almost half our population, just about half, is under 25. And we have between the ages of 10 and 19, I mean, many of these kids here, perhaps all the kids here are within that age group, we have 225 million. So we are a genuinely young country. Instilling sports will make us a fitter and more disciplined nation. It will, of course, as I said, keep us healthier and fitter. But at the same time, it will give us an opportunity to do very much more with our people than we are doing right now. Our country's attitude has tended to be that we have bigger and more important problems to worry about than sports. Daunting social, political, economic challenges. We have to be serious. Sports is trivial and frivolous. We couldn't be more wrong. Sports is in fact fundamentally important, as I mentioned to you already. And that the various benefits that O.P. Singh outlines in his book, sports as an instrument of preventive healthcare, personality development, of empowerment of the underprivileged, of community building, of inclusive governance, of patriotism, all of these are benefits that we would not be able to get at 10 times the expenditure that we would need to spend on sport. Now, I do want to say that the book is also extremely well done. It's written clearly, simply, attractively, and briefly. So it really is easy to read. It's also very well produced by Wisdom Tree. I've known Shobit Arya for a couple of years. I've launched 2 or 3 of his books, and I've edited one of them. And I can say that Wisdom Tree really does publishing proud by producing books that are very high quality, well printed, well proofread, well edited, and very attractive to look and hold. And I know that some of the authors in our country have not been so blessed. So I do want to give a little plug for Shobit, that he's done a very good job, and I think O.P. Singh has been well said by this. So let me then say at the very end that O.P. Singh ko jisne dhakka diya, acha kaam kiya. We really do need his voice. He does want us to see more schools established which comply with his dictum of saying yes to sports, and existing schools that don't have a sports capacity to take them on. We need to persevere, we need to fight this. And I, just as we heard in his remarks, he has been straightforward in his point of view. He has written it in brisk language, in fluid prose, keep us hooked and entertained. And at the same time, I do want to compliment him for asking his wife to come to the podium for the launch of the book. She must have had to show him a lot of patience as he made an effort to get this book written in the midst of all his other duties. So once again, O.P. Singh, congratulations. But let me say to everybody here, and particularly to our friends in the media, this is a message the nation needs to hear. We must understand that even if tomorrow is Sachin Tendulkar's last match, in the game of life there is no last match to the last day. We must play every day. We must exercise our bodies every day. We must walk if that's all we can do. We must run if we're like Mark and we can do more than walk. We must certainly, in our childhood, earn early the habits of exercise, activity, and sport. And so I congratulate O.P. Singh on giving this message and basing the message on the success story of Haryana. So this is not just theory, it's theory based on practice. And in congratulating him for what he's accomplished in Haryana, I also congratulate him for bringing this message to other states. I hope that in addition to Latvian, Shobit will have this translated into various Indian languages and get it into the hands of the state governments of very many states, so that we can all have a nation that says yes, ha, sheri, and very to sports throughout the country. Thank you all very much. Jai Hind.